right in the face. That's what she said. Hello and welcome. Segment 2 of episode 503 of Yeah, Beer and That. My name is Chris. I'm here tonight on my own because Andrew couldn't be bothered. Michael is sick. Michael Scott Kogler is unwell. And Luke, please call me ladies, the Viking Thick Dick Hannaford is somewhere over some water. He's flying to Canada. We've been talking tonight about beers, what you enter into competition, and the scores, what you get back, right? Now, I love it when I get a good score. There's bragging rights, you get medals, you get all this lovely stuff. It makes you feel good that someone has tasted your beer and likes your beer and has scored your beer well. And these are people who know about beer. They know these judges are either BJCP trained or, professional brewers or just industry professionals or just people with great palates who have been involved with the club a long time. And I'm talking about the South Australian Brewing Club, for example. I display my medals and ribbons proudly. And to juxtapose that, I'm about to tell you that the scores also mean nothing. Because the scores that you get are based on how close you are able to brew the beer to the BJCP guideline. It can taste amazing and you can score poorly because it didn't fit the guideline. So it depends on what you brew for. Are you brewing because you want to get good scores and you want to fit? For example, we have the Master Homebrewers program. I'm currently part of that. And what that is they have every single beer style on a spreadsheet. Duds would love this. I don't know how he hasn't been involved in it yet. And you can only enter scores that you have received through competition by providing the score sheets from official tournaments, and they basically count those against each beer style. And as you rank up, there's different ranks: recognized brewer, distinguished brewer, master brewer, whatever, beginner brewer, novice brewer. You have to meet certain criteria to get to the next level. So, for example, and this is an example, this isn't accurate at all, you might need to have 10 beers that have scored over 30 in 10 different categories, and 10 beers that have scored over 38 in competition to become a recognized brewer. And so it's a little chart that tracks your progress as a home brewer. So I do that. I love to enter my score sheets and I put them up there. And once you get over a certain amount, you rank up. And, my goal is to become a master home brewer, right? That means nothing really, but it's a little badge that you get, and it's a little nod or tip of the fedora from the homebrewing community that, hey, this guy can make some beer. He knows how to see a style of beer. He knows how to taste the beer in that style and then create or craft a recipe that's going to turn out something like what the style says. That is all. Anyway, in this segment 2, we're going to talk about beers what have got a mid score, so I should actually probably explain what the scores mean. I'm going to do that after I have a sip of IPA. I've got another TAFE SA. What did I actually pull out of the fridge? I've done this a couple of times. I've got the Pale Ale. I bought 2 cartons of that, and I drank the first carton ridiculously fast. So, anyway. IPA going down well. Now, the scores. There are brackets, right? So 0 to 13, problematic. Major off flavors and aromas dominate. It's very hard to drink. I got my first fair ever. I think before this, honestly, I may have like the high 20s is maybe the worst I've gotten prior to this competition. So fair. 0 to 13 is problematic. 14 to 20 is fair. Off flavors or aromas or major style deficiencies, it is unpleasant, right? Good. 21 to 29 misses the mark on style and or minor flaws. 30 to 37, generally within style parameters, some minor flaws. That is a good beer. If you're getting 30 or above, be proud of yourself. You have done well to craft that beer. Someone who doesn't know you is drinking that beer and has enjoyed that beer enough to say that this is a pretty good example of the style, right? 38 to 44, exemplifies style well, requires minor fine-tuning to become a perfect or world-class example. And 45 to 50, a world-class example of the style. And I think the only thing I've ever got in that 45 to 50 category is fucking mead. I've brewed 130 fucking beers, never once hit that, and 10 meads, and I've hit that there. Anyway, we digress. In the mid portion, I submitted 2 beers. I didn't submit 2 beers to become mid portion, to get judged in that mid section. 2 of the beers that I submitted were graded in that mid section. Now those 2 beers were a barley wine. Get out of the way, you Tafasay Polo. And a steamer. Now, after my first attempt at the steamer, I think we talked about that in episode 1, maybe 501. 1 second, I'm going to have another little sipski. Someone's texting me. Vodafone. All the friends I've got. Before I continue, I'm going to pour myself another beer. So, I remember Mike saying the other day, it's actually so funny. He goes on about how we would be a nightmare of a podcast for anyone with ADHD, basically, because of the nature of the podcast and the way that we struggle to stay on task. And I recall at the time brushing that off. But then as I listened back, as we discussed how hard it would be for a person with that disorder to listen to the podcast, we didn't even stay on track. And neither did he. Neither did he, by the way. Duds, you didn't even stay on track. So, I'm going to cut that out for sure. No, I'll leave it in. Tafasay Palabi. I have to get back down to the brewery. My supplies are running low. We didn't get a winner for the last Brew Busters either. No, I've got to stay on track. Staying on track is more important. I've got my new beer. Here's what we're talking about. So, I brewed a steam ale, and I put in too much Northern Brewer, and the boys crucified me for it. Now, they talked about how hoppy the beer was and yada, 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 and how dark, but all of this stuff. So, what I ended up doing was brewing steam ale again twice. And what I did was I brewed it. So, if you have the guidelines to brew a steam ale, on one end, 5% alcohol beer with X amount of IBU and X amount of SRM and da-da-da-da-da. So the lightest version possible. Then the heaviest version possible, 7.5% ABV, X amount of IBU, X amount of SRM, whatever. So I brewed 2 versions. One was on the lightest possible end of the style, and one was on the heaviest possible end of the style. And I was going to enter the beer that was on the lightest possible end of the style. But what happened was Viking came around one day when I was brewing, and we had about 100 beers, like we do when people come around, and we both hated the light end steam ale and loved the heavy end. It was caramel. It was biscuit. It was delicious. We were like, Jesus, this is fantastic. So I actually planned on entering the lightest end steam ale, and that was only because of how much the boys hated my steam ale. Not that they didn't hate it; they just didn't want that steam ale the way that I brewed it, right? And so I entered this heavy end steam ale, which is supposed to have the highest allowable IBU, the highest allowable, SRM, highest allowable ABV, all of this. And get this from the notes. Now, I will go by saying that I did get awarded a 30 out of 50. It is nothing to sneeze at. A 30 out of 50. What is that? That's English, by the way. A 30 out of 50 is a very good example of the style, right? Good base present, but needs a bit more hop in flavor and aroma. Excuse me. I had that beer, and my darlings, my little darling three, who aren't here tonight, but as a mere mind, didn't enjoy it. And it was out of style, technically. This is the uppermost limit of the style. I don't think you know what is fucking California Common is. I'm going to taste that right now. I've cleaned the bottles out. I shouldn't say this because the judges do an absolutely stellar job. Oh, Mother Mary, full of grace. And I gave them one of my fucking Grolsch bottles, which I'm not happy about. Look at this. Oh, like Ava Braun's pussy. Look, sorry, I poured that heavy. That was a big, thick head. But that is okay, so I do understand that when the boys tasted my beer, right, the steam ale, it was heavy on the hop, right? This one, right, this is the California Common at the exaggerated end of what is allowed in the style. Oh, caramel, biscuit, malt. It doesn't have a huge hop presence, I will be honest, but the IBU is the maxed allowed within the style. It's a fucking great beer. That is rich. It is. Me and Luke and I, when we were drinking this, we were like, "Oh my god, this is what you should have brewed, Chris." And this is so close to what I brewed back in 2017 when I started homebrewing, right? For record, it's 2026 now. I've been homebrewing for almost 10 years. And one of the first beers that I brewed, all grain, large scale, 30 litres, whatever, and served out of kegs on tap was a steam ale, a California Common. Andrew and I sat around my old fridge. We put 2 deck chairs either side. We had a Pluto gun, and we just sat there with the fridge door open and just ripping filthy paws and sucking back glass after glass of steam ale, and it tasted so close to this. Now, unless they have tasted something, an exemplary example of the style that tells them that this isn't, I say they are wrong. They are wrong with their judgment of this beer in that it needs more hop, because the hop flavor is absolutely there. And I would love them. There's this lovely bitterness. That backbone malt sits there. It's got that biscuit from, I can't recall the recipe at this time. But there's a biscuit, like a very Munich heavy biscuit. I've got a little bit of crystal in there. I'm certain of that because of the flavor and the thing that crystal malt does this thing to my mouth. It makes me salivate, not in a good way. I try to use crystal malt very sparingly. But I want them to almost now try the steam ale what I brewed with 25% extra hop Northern Brewer that I just staggered in. because I think that is what they're actually looking for. I genuinely do. I think that's what they're looking for, which is so far out of style. And maybe it's because I've brewed a lot of Cali Commons. Little Bang Brewing actually brewed a steam ale. It was a favorite of mine. I thought they had some. We went there. We went to Little Bang Brewing the other week, and it obviously wasn't there. But aside from that, there's nothing you can get that's like steam ale ish. What I thought was a Cali Common was actually just a California Pale Ale from Pirate Life. Fuck yourselves. So if you want a steam ale, you have to have Anchor Steam or a Mountain Goat Brewer Steam Ale, but it tastes like ass, so don't drink that. Yeah. You have to find a good steam ale. The Little Bang Brewing steam ale, if you can find that anywhere, it's like a green and white can. Buy that, drink that. It's delicious. Anyway, this is fantastic. I'll put the recipe in the link below. Brew this, try this. This is a good example of the style. I don't think that it was judged properly. Judges. Now, I also put that in as an all-day drinker. And the reason is because that is the everyman's beer of the 1800s. That was your all-day drinker. The other beer that I've got to taste with you tonight, in the mid-tier beers, is the English barley wine. Now, this isn't so bad. This one got a 37, which is good, right? 37 is really good. It's not a medal beer, though. It's not a medal-winning beer. It's the first time I've ever made an English barley wine, and if Galactopus isn't an English barley wine, this will be the first one I've had. I haven't actually tasted this yet, properly carbonated and done. I've tasted it out of the snipe. I loved it out of the snipe. And the thing that I loved out of the snipe, I actually put it from the snipe into a glass. When you held the glass in a specific angle, it actually glimmered, not glimmered. Glimmered is the wrong word. It was gold around the edges. And I thought that was cool because it was such a dark beer, but it still looked gold. And we'd had another beer recently that did that. But anyway. I'm not 100% well either, which is a problem. But I'm here, gentlemen, on my own, by the way, doing a podcast. Where are you? We went to the Lockleys Hotel the other day, and we couldn't tell if... Well, I thought they had Guinness Extra Stout on tap, but when we tasted it, I actually think it was just Guinness Draft, which was annoying because I think they had Guinness Extra Stout on tap only like a month earlier. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, that's Guinness Extra Stout. I'm going to have some of that. And when you ordered it through the app, it was Guinness Extra Stout and not Guinness Draft. Anyway, when we went back to get some Guinness Extra Stout, all the taps decals were just draft. So we tried it and we're like, no, this is draft. And we tested that against Southwark, and it wasn't even close. So it was definitely not that. Anyway, I'm going to put that there so you can see just how amazing that color is, how good that beer is. Thank you very much, Steam Ale, for being part of the journey. Here is the barley wine. Now, the problem I've got with this barley wine, and I can't drink too much tonight because I am behaving. I'm coaching soccer first thing in the morning, is that it is an 11.6% beer, right? Now, I have a problem with some of the notes because I normally like the notes that I get from the SA Brew Crew or SA Brewing Club, whatever the fuck they want to call themselves, I guess. I don't feel like they gave me the best notes. And that could have just been because they were having a nice time, they were drinking. It could have been... And this is the other thing. So I have been a beer judge for a long time. And look at this. Oh, hang on. I've got to just have a look at that beer. Oh, my God. That is lovely and clear, even for a lovely barley wine. Look, it's not crystal clear, see-through, but it is lovely and clear. It's got a lovely head that dissipates very quickly. Oh, the nose. Let me get in there. Okay. Toffee cherry. Dark biscuit. Ooh, like toffee sweet. Toffee sweet. It's not like it's like a burnt toffee, like dark caramel sweetness. That smells amazing on the nose. That smells absolutely fantastic. Let's have a. Oh, oh wow. Oh, that tastes heavy. That's like syrupy going down. Let me do this. Okay. Let me get the notes. I'm not going to read all of the notes because it doesn't actually matter. But these are the most legible. Thank you, Jason. It's a nice, smooth, creamy, easy drinking beer, but it's missing complexity and richness. You liar. So, liar. Which would elevate it. As a campfire beer, again, extra richness would make a big difference. Now, I'm not saying your notes are trash, but they're a little bit shit. Because, and this is the problem though. This is the problem. I'm not saying they're trash or shit, even though I just said that. As a beer judge, if I got this first in the queue, so you might judge 30 beers, right? They didn't in this example. Maybe they judged 15, right? But if you judge this in the as the first beer, you're not going to give it stellar marks because you're still like figuring out where the line is, right? If you judge this 3 or 4 beers in, you might get a fantastic score. That's not justified because, we gave that probably a little bit high, but it was really good compared to the last 3. Then beer number 5 comes along, we go, fuck, now, okay, we gave that a 37. We have to give the next one a 38, 39, whatever. It could also have just come after a beer that was like, this is the best beer we've ever had, 45. And then mine comes along, which is amazing, by the way. And they go, how close was it to the 45? Not that close. 37. You have to judge every beer on its own. But it's very hard to do when you're drinking 15, 12% beers in a row, right? Now, smells way better than the microphone. I'm trying to give like descriptors. I don't drink this type of beer very often. I cannot wait to deliver this to the gentleman. I'm gonna go back to my. This tasted rich and I'm sorry. I'm holding up the California Common. This tasted rich and caramelly and biscuity before I tasted this. Now it tastes like water. Referring to the barley wine. That is an amazing. That is I can't believe I've brewed that. 37 is a great score. Don't get me wrong. It didn't medal. It didn't do any of these things. I don't think I would brew this any differently. I like how that beer tastes. And I would drink that again, as is. It's syrupy. It is rich. I think it's complex. You have notes of, I don't want to drink too much of it either because I'm trying to behave myself tonight. There's even notes of like weirdly like cherry in there. There's cheesecakey notes to me. It's very rich. It's very thick. It's caramelly. There's biscuit. It's very malt heavy, obviously, because it's an English barley wine. I don't know what else to say about it. I need to share this with the boys. I need to get them to taste it, and I need to get their notes from this. But I'm not unhappy with a 37. Don't get me wrong. I think it's been judged very well. 37 again is a very good example of the style, on the border of excellent example of the style. It's the first one I've brewed. I remember coming home with the grain for this, and so because I normally do 5 liter batches. I did a 5 liter batch for this, by the way. No, 10 liter. I did a 10 liter batch, so I do have a lot of this left up there. And I remember bringing the grain home, and I was like, "Fucking hell!" Like, this is the equivalent of like a 20 to 30 liter batch of grain that I've got. And so you need to put that goodness in to get this kind of goodness out. Now, blow that in your face. I have one more beer for the podcast tonight. And that beer scored a 40 out of 50, which is an excellent example of the style. My California Common was an all-day drinker. My barley wine was your late night sipper. I'm going to be back for segment 3, and I'm going to give you another all-day drinker. Okay? Sit tight. Turn to the bed, bud. Am I getting drunk? Oh, yeah. I'll be back in 5 minutes.